Hey guys, Hamid here. So before we get started on today's episode, I just want to make an announcement. So one of our producers, Yinghua, is calling for volunteers. If you're Chinese, female, and you work in Sydney, or you know someone who fits that description, please contact Yinghua. We'll have the details in the description here. And I think this is a great opportunity to contribute to important research. It's research like this that gives voices to minority groups and explores their lived experiences. So again, contacting Huayu. Yeah, and also today's episode is actually a video. So while the audio version is available here on iTunes and wherever you're getting this podcast, please check out the link in the description and look at the video. Alex has put some good effort into producing it, so yeah, check it out. Also like our Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Bye.
So where did we just go, man? Why are we filming today? What are we telling the people?
So we just recently got back from Splendour in the Grass. Now don't laugh at me, guys. I actually didn't know what Splendour in the Grass was.
This was Hamid's first music festival ever.
No,
Wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. I just didn't know what it was. I think it's because I just don't have enough white friends. Like growing up in an ethnic environment, Western Sydney, just wasn't exposed to it. Yeah. Anyway, so we got introduced to Holly Kershaw, who's the organizer at the Science Tent. James of Antarctica, always looking out for us. Thanks, James.
Thanks, James.
Connected us, and we pitched her a performance, and our performance was called The Biological Clown Car.
So every year at Splendour, Dr. Carl actually set it up initially. Dr. Carl set up the Science Tent. So they have obviously the typical music acts and things that you would have at a music festival, but they also have discussions on like philosophy and ethics and things like this, and they have like craft stores and stuff like that. And they also have a science tent where scientists go and talk about science and publicly engage. And yeah, that's what we pitched to them.
Yeah, it worked out well. Besides the 9-hour drive, that was solid.
Yeah, Australia's a big place.
Oh, Alex was a champion. He did all the drives, so that was great.
Thanks, cruise control.
Yeah, there were some really great talks at the Science Tent. They had the pill testing. Remember the pill testing?
Yeah, so there's a coronial inquiry at the moment into the recent deaths at festivals for pill testing, and the actual coronial inquiry was there, and they were checking out some talks on pill testing and how it's performed and like what the goals are and stuff. So that was really interesting. We're sitting right behind them when they were presenting.
Yeah, that was funny because we didn't see many sniffer dogs, and that's because somebody recently actually died from seeing sniffer dogs and eating a bunch of pills. So definitely get rid of those sniffer dogs, guys.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that they were talking about, right? Is the pressure that it is on people, and that really we have the means to like test for this stuff. So we should be.
Yeah.
But we also saw Helen from Western Sydney, who did some stuff on Instagram and how it's changing women's perceptions of themselves. So that was a really interesting talk as well. So shout out to Helen.
Yeah, and there was also that talk by, I forget his name, but the talk was called How to Unfuck the Planet, which I thought was a great title for a presentation. And then, unlike other people who see doom and gloom, the presenter was making the case that actually our future is bright and that we are going to deal with the climate issues and the environmental issues that we face as a species.
So maybe we should talk about our presentation. You know why I messed up though, so tell them what it's called.
So the title of our our performance was called, we can just put that on the
Yeah, it's more like wholesome when you like do it to camera, right?
Our performance was called The Cell Nucleus, a Biological Clown Car. And what we wanted to do was share our excitement as cell biologists, why we find cell biology so fascinating. And we both deal with DNA and study what happens inside the nucleus. And so we want to show the craziness of the proportions of DNA to the nucleus.
Yeah, so when you take all the DNA out of one of your cells, if you stretch it end to end, that like DNA, that double helix ladder that most people are kind of familiar with, when you stretch it end to end, just from one of your cells, it actually stands 2 meters tall. And all that DNA has to fit inside a microscopic cell nucleus. So we were trying to kind of get that perspective across to the audience, and we thought of a different few ways of doing it. And we had a bit of a problem, right? Because it's like, how do you show that, right? Obviously, the cell's microscopic, so you've got to scale that up to a point where people can see it, but you've got to scale it up a lot, right? So we thought we'll scale it up 1,000 times. So we got, you tell them.
Yeah, so we got 2 kilometers of yarn for the 2 meters of DNA, and it looked ridiculous. And we got some teams to come up and actually try to fit all that yarn in a representative nucleus. But the funny thing is, that wasn't even a good representative.
Yeah, so we gave him like a beach ball size kind of nucleus, yeah. But when you actually scale up the nucleus 1,000-fold as well, size of a pea.
It's very tiny.
Yeah. So like, how does all that DNA actually fit in there, right? And it turns out there's actually 3 ways. Firstly is because the DNA is incredibly thin, right? DNA is only 2 nanometers thin. So it's about 1,000th the width of a piece of spider's silk. So if you take a piece of spider's silk and cut it into 1,000 parts, just one of those parts represents how thin DNA is.
And the second thing is that it's wrapped around these histones that balance the negative charge of DNA. And when these histones come together, they collapse and they condense DNA. And when they are relaxed and dispersed, then DNA actually
releases, and like allows all the proteins in and can get read and transcribed into genes. And there's one more reason as well, and that's because of supercoiling. And you'll see some like pictures of this if you're listening on the podcast. You'll have to go and like watch the video because we've got some pictures. We actually got one of my old hockey skate laces. So the laces from a hockey skate, this thing's really long. And we got 2 people on stage to kind of twist it. And as you twist it, it turns into that like first helical kind of layer. And then as you keep twisting, the twist become twists on twists on twists, and it kind of collapses in on itself and goes from being several meters long to being like 20-30 centimeters long. It's pretty amazing to like watch it, and DNA actually does that inside the cell as well, and that's another reason how it can actually kind of pack down into a cell nucleus.
So we actually wanted to show,
because that was like stage 1 of the performance, right?
Yeah, stage 1, and then we asked the audience, and we want to ask you this as well. Have you ever seen DNA with your own eye, with naked eyes? No telescopes, no microscopes.
Telescopes. Maybe alien DNA.
This is what I do whenever I go talk to astronomers. I say, so what microscope is that? Telescope?
They know who the biologist is. Yeah.
So we wanted to show them what DNA actually looks like. And so we thought, well, let's extract some DNA. And this is actually really simple. So if you want to do it with your kids, with your little brother or whoever, or little sister, you can actually do it. All you need is water, salt, detergent, and some alcohol, plus some strawberries.
And you can get the alcohol from the chemist, like isopropyl alcohol will work fine for this. Yeah. So basically, when you do this experiment where you extracted the DNA from the strawberries, right, it's interesting to see what DNA looks like, but when you're doing it with one strawberry, it isn't very spectacular. So for Splendour, we thought, okay, we've got to ramp this up. So we actually extracted DNA from 30 kilograms. That's 30 kilograms of strawberries. And we wanted to see how much DNA we could get out.
So there are different barriers that stop the DNA from coming out of the strawberries. You have these cells that have a cell wall, which is basically made out of fiber, and then you have the cell membrane, which is made out of fats. And so to break down the cell wall, we basically got people to come and smash it, and it got real messy because they were squashing all this DNA. We gave them gloves, luckily.
Yeah, they like that.
Yeah, they did.
Scientists for a day.
And the cell membrane, just like if you want to get rid of fats from your dishes, you just use detergent. And then after that, you just pour some salty water into it and add some alcohol, and boom, there's your DNA.
Yeah.
And it was good because we had a guessing competition, and the person who guessed closest to the real amount that we could extract actually won some BLab Coats merchandise.
Yeah. So we ended up extracting 708 grams of DNA out of the strawberries.
And our closest guess was by my own former student, Ibtisam. El Yellow? No, El Halu?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I murdered that. She's going to murder me.
Who she guessed 750 grams.
Yeah.
So pretty close.
No, to be fair, we probably didn't extract all the DNA, and there was probably water there that we should have gotten rid of.
Wasn't a very controlled experiment, but hey.
You do what you can.
Yeah.
But so yeah, congratulations.
Future work.
Yeah. Congratulations to Ibtisam for winning it, and she actually got a hoodie, which brings us to. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, because it wasn't just any hoodie, was it, Hamid?
No, it was a BLab Coats gorilla style hoodie.
Yeah.
So we are launching BLab Coats merchandise. So if you want to support the podcast and you like what we do and you want to support us, because we do everything that we do is basically for free. It's a passion project, and we have a team of 7 who help us, and so it would go a long way if you can purchase some merch. And we have some cool designs. Our graphics designer, artist Michael Horgan's designing the shirts, and since I've picked up art, if you haven't already, follow my Instagram page, Hamid Loans. I'm going to design some shirts as well, so I'm really excited.
Yeah.
So definitely check us out.
So if you like the art on our website and things like that, like that's the style of art. Michael's done a great job for us over the years. He's a great artist. So all of the cool BLab Coats art you see is designed by him.
Yeah.
And that's what you get on a t-shirt. And it's a good way of like getting something cool that you can wear and throwing us a bit of cash as well.
Yeah, you can help support us while looking trendy. As Drew, our social media manager, would say, you can look dank.
And one last thing, we also have to shout out our very first Patreon supporter.
Yeah. So if you already don't know, we have a Patreon page where you can actually support the podcast. There are different tiers starting from $1.01. I don't know why there's a 1 cent. Maybe
because it's for hydrogen.
Chemist, of course. Michael is a chemist. Of course, he would do that. So, who was our first Patreon supporter? Lucas. What? We never found out. We were supposed to find out right before we started recording, but Alex got distracted with his ADHD brain.
One eternity later.
Thank you, Lucas Valley. We appreciate the support, and everybody else. I mean, $1 isn't a lot. $1 a month will go a long way. We have over just about, I should say, 2,500 subscribers. So if anyone pledges in, even if like 10% of our subscribers actually pledge to the $1 tier, it would go a long way to actually funding lots of cool stuff.
Yeah, because we have expenses running the website and things like that, and bringing you cool podcasts.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for listening to this episode, and see you guys in
2 weeks for the first episode of the next season.
Oh my god. And it's going to be the new format, so sayonara.
See ya.
再见. Goodbye.